My name is Mohit Jauhari, and I am here to speak on one of my favorite topics, digitization of procurement. I head the procurement and supply chain function for a leading Indian company by the name of Shriram Pistons and Rings. And I'm very happy to be here taking part in this Global Sources online show. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the organizers for having me here. And most importantly, I would like to welcome you all and thank you once again for the overwhelming support and enthusiasm shown towards this session of mine. Thank you also for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with me. The presentation is going to be spread over 20 odd minutes, and the last 10 minutes will be for question and answer. So I'd request all of you to keep on thinking your questions, which I would be more than happy to answer towards the end of this session. So 20 minutes of presentation and 10 minutes for Q&A, and Q&A obviously can go beyond the 20 minutes as well. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions offline as well. As you can see, the session starts off with evolution of procurement. We'll talk about traditional procurement. We'll talk about the Asian scenario. We'll talk about procurement 4.0, digital procurement strategy, how to get there. We'll also talk about key characteristics of digital procurement, and we'll look at, I'll rather make you peep into the window of future for looking at the drivers and enablers of digital procurement. So here we go. From a traditionally transaction-driven procurement, procurement has evolved by leaps and bounds. It became efficiency-driven, it became price-driven. When the word opened up, it became cost-driven, and we are at a stage where business strategies are getting defined by the help of procurement. From reactive buying, we ended up into a change management kind of a thing wherein procurement now has the power to transform organizations. From an IT perspective, EDI led us into MRP, ERP. Then internet came in and played a major role in how sourcing decisions got taken. Now we are in a scenario of sourcing suites. Now procurement and its intent is also driven by the market complexity and the spend under your control. So if the spend is very high and market complexity is also high, then the spend becomes more strategic. But if it's a low value spend and the market complexity is less, you typically end up doing routine stuff. For example, sourcing masks would be a routine thing in these days and times, but sourcing components for building rockets would be a lot more strategic. Procurement is also a function of how organizations handle it. If the organizations aim for excellence, then they talk of value-driven procurement. If they're just happy to be operationally driven, then the availability is the only focus. They don't have anything else to focus on. That's how you add value in the whole thing. So organizations which aim for value obviously focus on excellence, and that's the way going forward. If we see the evolution of procurement over the last 50 odd years, the 70s were highly transactional. 80s became about supplier consolidation. In the 90s, we started speaking about indirect spends. Then came the era of supplier relationship management. By the turn of the century, everyone was talking about strategic sourcing, automated spend analysis. These days, we are in a phase called digital procurement. Now, there was a gentleman by the name of Charles Babbage. As early as 1832, he could predict what a chief procurement officer would typically do. So that's how prophetic he was. I mean, he said that someone who selects, purchases, and tracks goods used on a project, modern day CPO. How prophetic. Now, talking of traditional procurement, there are a lot of Challenges in traditional procurement, a lot of manual, repetitive work, buyer and seller exchanging a lot of information over phone calls, a lot of time consuming, as also resource intensive, prone to errors, lots and lots of paperwork. Then you need a lot of people to manage a traditional procurement. It is more out of silos. People don't know what the other person is doing. So a lot of other things like fraud can come in, bureaucratic in approach. As I said, lots of paperwork, very, very time consuming. So high time that we changed over to a modern approach. And we already have actually from a decentralized procurement. We are not talking about centralized procurement. Tactical has become more strategic in nature. Manual processes have been automated. Word has opened up. And most importantly, everyone is very, very kind of enthused and works towards supporting the environmental causes as well. So the paradigm actually has shifted. You see this, what generally used to happen specifically in low turnover companies compared to what a high turnover company does. So in a high turnover company, or where, as we just saw a few slides back, if the focus is on creating value, then purchasing or procurement has the power to transform organizations. So the baby steps on price management became cost management, strategic sourcing by the turn of the century, and now in 2020 and beyond, we are talking of value creation and value management as far as procurement is concerned. Coming to the Asian scenario, you will see that systems for capturing data are not always effective. Risk management is something which needs a serious look into. Now, very, very sadly, inventory is being used to counter demand management shortcomings and challenges. And only a few companies are exploring the global scenario. That's something which needs to change, and it does need to change very, very fast. If we were to plot on where Asian companies are with respect to where they need to be, so most Asian companies are between the first and second generation, that is between tactical buying and optimized sourcing, whereas the world has already moved beyond strategic procurement and we are talking of value chain integration on a global level. So lots and lots of work to be done to eliminate the processing system inefficiencies. Rampant buffering has to go out of the window, and global sourcing has to really take shape. Imperative that Asian companies move really fast on this ladder. Big data. I mean, we all hear about this word. Corinne Owens had said big data is big opportunity for procurement, and we couldn't be far from the truth because big data can help you extract more value. It can help you exactly pinpoint the customer demands. It can help you get the best quality products at the best price. So a lot of data churning is what is required to benchmark your performance against peer groups so that you don't get left behind. And most importantly, companies which are able to tap unstructured data are the ones who are going to lead procurement going forward. IT has had a major, major role in the evolution of procurement, from enhancing visibility to reducing the cycle times to better category management, then magnifying or putting a microscopic lens on the spend and improving your supply management. Everything has been made possible through IT. E-procurement is a full-blown subject, and I've been doing it for the past 20 years. And let me tell you, e-procurement is something which can transform organizations if handled well. You have to create internal resources who are experts at handling e-procurement, and they are the ones who can actually help you create a lot of value in your procurement. Digitization has taken major steps over the past few years, from MRP to ERP to e-procurement, and now we are already into an era where we are talking of procurement 4.0. Now, talking of procurement 4.0, it's all about advanced automation and robotics. IoT, blockchain, and situational awareness software. Now, if we were to look at the architecture of Procurement 4.0 and what it does, it brings end to end visibility in the procurement and supply chain. From buyer centricity, it leads to co collaboration with the suppliers. From hierarchy, it makes decision making very, very fast. And the digital transformation cannot be complete without Procurement 4.0 coming into the scheme of things, which is basically about connectivity and communication, data intelligence using big data and data analytics. Human machine and machine learning have a major role to play in Procurement 4.0. And going forward, we'll have to talk about advanced transportation, advanced robotics. Procurement 4.0 is something which is here and it's going to be a long term thing as far as procurement is concerned because it's going to give you a lot of benefits like lower cost, better risk management, improved visibility end to end from customer to supplier, and obviously very, very tight compliance. Let's now talk about what makes an effective digital procurement strategy. Data, just a few slides back, we discussed about it, internal as well as outside of organization, and what was procured and why. All comes into the picture and scheme of things. Technology to make sense of data. You have to get a buy-in from the users, make them feel part of the whole experience, and then they take procurement to the next level. But for doing that, you need a lot of focus on skills and talent. Skills which need to be cultivated, imparted, and talent obviously is very, very important so that the people on the ground actually make things happen based on the power of data and power of organization. Backed up obviously by policies and procedures which give a thrust to this drive towards digitization. Now, before you take the leap, you need to be very, very sure as to what it takes. It's going to take time, it's going to take money, and it takes a vision to take it forward. Unless you have all these three in abundance, it's going to be a tough walk ahead. In order to get there and sustain, you have to first start off with a visioning exercise wherein you get a buy in, as I said, of all the users. You will do a lot of diagnostic, you'll design it, implement step one, sprint two, sprint three. So it's an iterative process. You learn as you grow and as you walk along that path. And digital procurement is all about digitization, automation, experience of the users, and innovation based on the same. So it's a whole cycle which has to keep on getting repeated again and again. Talking about key characteristics of digital procurement, your supplier to customer becomes predictive. You are able to predict what and how and when. Your supply management becomes proactive. You do a lot of collaboration with your suppliers, and obviously P2P, the entire cycle becomes automated. And obviously, anything and everything you do is all about results. And digital procurement, ladies and gentlemen, is one magic potion that can actually help you get results. How? Let's see how. So you'll have improved inputs because everything from data files to unstructured databases to movement and tracking and third party data is all going to be put into the system. You're going to get into crowdsourcing, cognitive computing, advanced costing, cyber tracking, collaboration across the network, visualization, robotics, blockchain, and whatnot. And what you're going to get is first leadership, process excellence, and risk mitigation, the top three drivers for any procurement function. So that's how important digital procurement capabilities are in our endeavor to get the best output from digital procurement. Now, while all that was theory, let's talk about practical. I'm talking about an Indian company which has done a lot of low cost digitization and IT enablement in procurement. So they have multiple plants, seven to be precise. And when one plant changes one particular rate, for example, a plant sitting out of Delhi changes a rate. So plant sitting out of Chennai gets to know the rate change to a systemic alert, and the buyer over there can take action in consonance of that change. Whenever their suppliers supply a material, the moment it reaches the gate of the company, the supplier gets to know that the material has been received. So there's no phone calling and no email exchanges and blah 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 just to get a simple information. They've automated it like so simply. Then all the payment advices go to the suppliers. So the suppliers, every time they get a payment, they don't get a payment, they don't have to be in touch with the buyers and keep on bothering them with non-productive work. They don't have any paper purchase orders. Everything goes out in PDF form, that too automated through the SAP system itself. And they've also taken the PO release to the mobile, handheld device that we are so fond of carrying these days. So the purchase orders get approved at the click of a button using a mobile application. So what they've done is they've made communication transparent and foolproof. And as a result, they've also made their people work on some things which are core to their skills rather than mundane tasks. In case a material which has been received at one of their plants gets rejected, the supplier gets an auto alert. So there's no time lag between action and the response to that. In case a material is short at the gate, the supplier gets to know instead of getting to know later on. Their supplier ratings are automated. Their procurement is scientifically linked based on data. Their inventories are automated and real time. And what they also do is they tag items based on the usage patterns automatically. So if an item is getting used in higher numbers, then the stocking levels keep on getting escalated. And in case the item is not getting picked up very, very fast, then the automated tagging and the automated stock definitions keep on playing a part in how much to keep. They also do e-procurement. For example, they do e-procurement for each and every machine that they buy. So they're using technology and digitization in a very, very mature and very intelligent way. Similarly, for their planning, earlier it used to be on Excel, wherein it used to at times lead to overstocking or shortages and loss of money and revenue. Now they've automated everything, so they are able to keep inventories within control and ensure that the factories run in a structured manner. So there is a seamless thing which they've brought in instead of the chaotic process that was followed earlier. Now let's talk about where we are as procurement professionals on digitization. And this survey was done a couple of years ago. So 66% people use procure to pay, almost 60% do spend analysis, 50% do contract management, sourcing or digitization of sourcing is 47%, and supplier management digitization is 28%. And you won't be surprised if these numbers would have jacked up by at least 10 to 15 basis points, or rather 10 to 15% over the past couple of years. So we are well on our way towards digitization of procurement. Now, talking about the digital technologies, you will have some core technologies which are almost everywhere, from supplier networks to supplier risk management, analytics, e-sourcing, auctions, electronic catalogs, contract management, supplier information management, e-invoicing, etc. But there are certain technologies which are evolving and maturing, like cognitive computing. predictive advanced analytics, visualization, collaboration in networks, crowdsourcing, 3D printing, robotics. And then there are the emerging technologies like blockchain, which is a thing for the future, cyber tracking, virtual reality, sensors, wearables, RFIDs, and whatnot. A lot is happening in the procurement space, and a lot of interesting stuff is happening in the procurement. Now, talking about what skill sets you need for a procurement professional, or the 3 plus 2 plus 3 mantra, as I call it, sourcing has evolved significantly and it is more important than ever, especially over the last 30, 40, 50 years. Technology is not an option. You have to outsource the tactical work to technology. You have to be strategic with technology, and you have to take out the repetitive work out of your day to day work and offload it. The future will see a lot of use of technology, IoT. Speed will become very, very vital. Customization along the supply chain and procurement functions. Inventories will have to be optimized. Working capital will be very, very critical, and procurement will have a major role to play in that. You'll have to have very strong and robust relationship with the suppliers. Blockchain will provide end-to-end visibility, and then it will be all about integration across procurement function. I'll take you into the future, or rather make you look into the future as to how the future is going to pan out. So procurement 2025 will have value drivers in the form of innovation, automation, digital supply chain management, big data, strategic relationships across the chain, digital supplier and category management, and ultimately it will all lead to an agile organization. And all the digital organizations will have enablers like strategy, real-time performance management, robust processes, strong organization culture. Talent and skill management will be very, very important. And obviously, IT will be the enabler and the driver as well for procurement of the future. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for being such patient listeners. And now I look forward to your questions. Thank you so much for a patient listening. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.